Hi everybody, this is Phyllis with Yogability. We're here, all of you EM warriors, to do day 3 of our one pose, one day, every day in February. So today's pose is child's pose. It's also known in Sanskrit as Balasana. And so for this pose, we start off on a mat. We're going to kind of come into a tabletop position. So I want you to undo your legs and come onto knees and hands. And so when I do this pose, I'm kind of stacking those wrists right under shoulders, knees right under hips. I'm going to put my big toes together, and then I'm going to take my heels out to the sides of the mat. Put my bottom right between those heels, and then take my forehead down to the mat. This is what's known as child's pose or Balasana. Now, if coming down like this is difficult for you, you can also take your knees out to the sides of the mat and let your belly kind of sink down into it and put your forehead down onto the mat. Just resting here. You can creepy crawl those fingers forward. This is a resting pose. This is awesome to do in your bed first thing in the morning, or right before you go to bed at night. Just take a nice child's pose. So I lift my head to talk to you, but your forehead should be on the mat. Now, you're probably all wondering, how do I do this in a chair? Maybe you're not. That's okay. I'm gonna go to the chair now. So if you're in child's pose, you can hang out here in child's pose. And if you're in a chair, this one's for you. So in a chair, what I like to do is put my feet hip distance apart. Again, finding those hip points, making sure they line up with my feet, nice and flat, nice and even on the ground. Make sure you're sitting on your chair with enough support for your entire legs. I like to stack one hand over the other, put it to my forehead, and then just lean forward for a resting pose. Touching the forehead is really important. We have some sensors in our forehead that actually help us deregulate some of the glands in our brain that operate they operate neurotransmitters actually, and they reduce those neurotransmitters that produce anxiety in us. So stimulating this part of our forehead actually lessens that anxiety, helps us to be more restful. And so coming into child's pose is definitely a resting pose. Something that we do automatically when we grab our heads, you know, in stressful situations, or we trace lines across babies' foreheads, we rest that way. And so just kind of sink into this pose. It's what's called in yoga as a yin pose. Your muscles are not actively engaged, so you're just resting in this pose. And so if you're on your chair now, we're going to take an inhale, round our backs, and come up to sitting. Same thing if you're on the mat, you're going to start on that mat. Inhale, round the back, sitting up. Yeah. Then you may want to come down to one hip or the other, whatever hip feels really good to you. Swing those legs out in front of you, and you've just completed day 3. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining me.